Rejoice, everyone! We're back with another Sekhie Reacts to Fate.
One that Sekhie is very excited for, but will not say before Knick-Knack.
Yeah, just as a quick heads up, we will be spoiling the identity of Assassin of the Nightless City, so just be warned. Alright, Sekhie, do you want to go ahead and lead us into the servant here? I can move us to the Wikipedia page.
It's the Empress Wu Zetian, China's one and only female empress who reigned with power. Oh, I love this woman in history. One of several women in history who are basically famous for the fact that retroactively history in their various country of origin has written them to be an absolute villain, like Elizabeth Bathory, with like very little in terms of redeeming arcs. Like, so many historical scholars from China will say that Wu Zetian was like an evil woman who reigned with like absolute brutal control and stuff like that. But that is not the case if you read the entire story of her life and her period in rule. Oh, she is the original go-getter. Like, put on your power suit, put on your heels, rule the world.
Alright, I'm not ready for this, and I don't think you are either.
I mean, okay, so before you show me the servant, should I just do kind of like an overview of
Yeah, why don't you build her up a bit?
Yeah, okay, so Wu Zetian lived well, obviously the Wikipedia page is up, so like there's a kind of a brief over there. But she was born in 624 and lived till 705. She basically ruled in power from about 660 to 705 for about 45 years uninterrupted. So she was originally a member of the harem of Emperor Taizong of the Tang dynasty. However, upon his death, she was still very young, and she had an affair with his ninth son, Li Ji, who became Emperor Gaozong. She was his ninth wife, but she became his principal wife and the empress consort at the time. However, 5 years into his reign, he had, I think, a debilitating stroke or illness or something, and she ended up taking, like, complete control of the country. Basically, she had access to the seal of, it's like an imperial seal of something that basically meant that every single document that passed through the imperial palace had to be signed and okayed by her, right? And so she led China through a really interesting period where corruption in the court was significantly reduced. She led China through massive land expansions, including allying with both the Shilla and Goryeo dynasties on the Korean peninsula during different times when they were fighting against one another to claim land there. She claimed a lot of land out towards Mongolia and that sort of thing. There was an economic boom during the time that she ruled. Generally, it's viewed to be one of the kind of golden periods of rule in Chinese history. And later on, either her son or grandson became Emperor Xuanzong. And Emperor Xuanzong is known as, I think, either the first or one of the originators of the Tang High Imperial period, when the Tang dynasty was at its strongest, most influential, and most economically prosperous. Wu Zetian, during her lifespan, basically turned China back into an international imperial power through her various reforms and actions during the 40 to 45 years that she had complete control. She was in conflict with quite a few other kind of like high-positioned wives and people in the court, but she didn't really face a whole lot of like, what's the word, like serious opposition inside the court, which is pretty interesting, at least until the end of her time, when in 704 she got very, very sick, and some of her advisors were basically accused of like espionage and other things like treason, and then she died the year after that, and it went to one of her sons, which I think it was Xuanzang. And I say Xuanzang and Gaozong and Taizong, so those are their dynastic imperial names. Like Gaozong, I said that she had an affair with Li Ji. Li Ji was his name before he became Emperor Gaozong. So Wu Zetian is the name that most people know her by. It's the name that most documentaries and history books will call her. But she was born as, I think, Wu Zhao or Wu Hao, and her name was later changed. I think she also has an imperial title. I'm just not exactly sure what it was, because China does not give a lot of credit to female empresses. Like I said, she is the only one in the imperial record for a very, very long time that actually reigned with the power of the emperor, essentially. She's basically China's Hatshepsut. And so, but like I said, she's been vilified by a lot of historians in modern history, who have called her like a wicked woman and said that she used her womanly wiles to kind of sleep her way into power, and she just like absolutely put down anyone who opposed her. Well, I mean, men do that too. They put down anyone who opposes them. So criticizing her for doing what any man in her position would have done is a flawed perspective. And as to the fact that she slept her way into power, technically so did all women of any social standing. I mean, you know, sure, she married into the harem of Taizong, but, I mean, she made her way up from there. So you gotta give her credit for that. I mean...
Alright, Knick-Knack's about to attempt a Ruin Sekhie's Day speedrun. Meet Assassin Wu Zetian. Or Wu Zetian.
Oh my god, she's fucking adorable!
Oh, this is not what I was worried about.
Oh, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
You ready to see the other forms?
Sure. Is that a bow? It's just a bow. You know, go back an image. You know, I don't hate it. Which, actually, I don't understand why. So, okay, can you not show them my tabs?
I hope you guys saw Sekhie's porn.
Fuck. I don't love the bow. I'm not a fan of that. I understand that that's a reference to the fact that there were ties holding, like, ropes together and shit, like, but I don't like the bow. But I actually don't hate any other part of this. I actually think it looks pretty fucking cool. I just really, really hate the whole bow.
Okay, it's a pleasant
thing.
surprise that you don't hate the design here.
Well, I don't know. I mean, she's a strong, independent woman. I mean, look, here's the thing. I know that I've reacted pretty badly about some of the female designs, right? Like, I really didn't like Altera, and I didn't like Penthesilea. And I have a similar problem with the top here that I did with Penthesilea, right? But at the same time, it's also a pretty epic-looking design, and I kind of like the stuff going on with her hair and other stuff. Penthesilea's problem was that she would just... I didn't like the top, and then there was nothing else happening. It was just 2 pieces of titty armor. You know? Whereas this has, like, other stuff. Also, her first art, if you go back, I actually really do like this. I think this is actually pretty cute. This is about where I expect, like, fate to take, like, traditional Chinese clothing and waifus. Like, this is an accepted level, like, an expected level of horny, right? And I'm okay with that. So, I do have one question, though. Does she have boobs?
She's a lolly. Like, she's
so
acted
no.
as someone as a child.
Okay. I couldn't tell the art, like, at times the art looks like they're trying to, like, shape it to the side.
Yeah.
But, like, there's no...
No. There's zero tit there. So.
Okay. This is adorable. I really like this.
Okay, then we're off to a good start here.
Like, I really like this with the hair and the color. And you know what I like the most about it? It's so colorful. We have not had enough servants that are really, like, colorful, you know? Besides, I mean, Rama and Sita were the last ones that were really, like, the colors, like, stand out to you. Also, I do like the background of this art, and I know that's not relevant,
Oh, yeah, the background arts can be charming in their own right.
Yeah.
Is that a CE art, or was that just... I think that's a CE art.
I don't... knowing that she's a lolly, I do not like the paint me like one of your French girl piece. I don't like that. Oh, she's so cute! Oh, I love the little face. It almost looks like Anya's, like, smug face. It's like... I love it.
All right.
Also, I have to give them props. Like, they are being very clear about the fact that she is wearing a crown as, like, an emperor. Like, they're leaning into the whole, like, this is a crown.
So yeah, no, they this is actively they do very much treat her as an empress in Fate. They don't like, oh, she was just a consort that happened to have power.
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, also, I mean, think of let's say she came to power in 660, right?
Yeah.
She was born in 628, so she was only 32-ish. I mean, she was 32 and reigning as Empress of all of Tang China. That actively expanded the limits of the empire and set it up for the ensuing golden age that would start with Xuanzang.
So, Fate, as far as, like, Fate has largely kept to the story that you outlined earlier.
Yeah. So I remember talking about her with you previously, and you said that there was some controversy over the Chinese server with her.
Oh, I am glad you brought that up. I would not have thought to bring that up at all.
Because I mentioned that I really, really was interested in Wu, and you said, oh, there was some sort of controversy. And I know sometimes there can be controversy in different servers.
So, in the Chinese server, because you know China and the censorship its media goes over there, there was a big deal made about you can't depict historical figures as anything but what they are. So, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Basically,
so
you have to
depict they want? That portrait of Wu Zetian from Wikipedia?
So Wu Zetian was scrubbed entirely. Like, her design here, card art here, isn't even viewable. She's known as, like, assassin, insert whatever number servant she is.
Yeah.
And her card art is replaced with just the generic caster card art. Have you seen that?
Oh.
And
so they really didn't like this.
They did that for all the Chinese servants, including, like, Qin Shi Huang.
Just because they didn't want depictions of those servants on the server. That's actually pretty unfortunate for, I think, Chinese fans. I feel really bad for them because despite the fact that I don't like some arts, I do like a lot of others. And I think one of the things about Fate is it's actually pretty fun to see new drawings of, like, old historical figures that we know and love.
It would not surprise me seeing the rest of her design outside of her first card art, or even with her first card art, if there was also prior to that, because this is a fairly recent thing, and Wu's been around for a little bit longer than some of the other Chinese servants on that server. It wouldn't surprise me if they had also censored her design a little bit. They, like, changed the coloring and such, so she was wearing clothes.
That's fair. I could see that.
You've seen Chinese games.
Yeah. I'd actually really like to see a slightly more modest version of that first card art where, like, her legs aren't out and that sort of thing. Like, that actually might be really cool. Like, I think, like, I don't mind the card art. I like it as is, but, like, imagine if they'd gone, like, full kind of traditional with, like, the flowing, like, many layers of robes, and she kind of just floats around on, like, a puff of robes.
Let's take a look at some of the, So we've seen the card art and all of that. Let's look at the sprites here. So, like, that's what her sprite looks like.
Yeah, so you can, like, kind of see the, like... I like the color change between 2 and 3. Like, that's actually kind of cool, seeing the total shade. Do you notice that?
Yeah,
you notice. Okay. Yeah. I also like how she's got ears. She's fucking cat ears on the third one.
Oh, they did that for a lot of servants.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's actually pretty cool. I mean, from the fucking neck up, she looks real as all hell, you know? From the neck down in the first one, it's kind of like a nightgown, but in the other two, it's a little more.
So as far as what Fate draws attention to here, it draws attention to her infamous exterminations. Like, you mentioned that she would, like, execute people that were... men did all the time, but she's particularly infamous for it.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, is, like, in history, we'll always see, if there's a female, right, in power in history, and they do some of the things that men do, right, like execute those who oppose them and stuff like that, like, we're always going to hear more about the woman and how terrible it was that she did that, and what a tyrant she was, riding high on her own power. But at the same time, do you know the amount of Chinese emperors that did that we just hear nothing about, because it's men and it's expected and that's what you do when you're in power, you know? And because it's a woman, it's different, you know? She doesn't sit at home doing embroidery, you know, in the fucking harem, you know? And I hate that at times. Like, it's why I have part of my shelf is dedicated to, like, history of famous women throughout time, and I have, like, several books on people like Wu Zetian who, like, sure, maybe she wasn't, like, super benevolent and nice to everyone, but also she wasn't any worse than any of her predecessors or successors in the grand scheme of, like, things. It's just that she was a woman and they were men.
Fate also has some extra stuff here. It points out, or it says that she was surprisingly religious and superstitious.
Yes, she was, yeah.
Right down to, like, she changed the country's name because she had a preference for newer things because of that.
Yeah.
And she was She forbade cats from being in the palace due to one of the consorts she executed to get power.
Yeah.
Like, supposedly saying that they'd reincarnate as a cat and a mouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think she even moved the capital out of fear of ghosts.
Yeah.
By the way, the character herself denies this.
Well, I mean, superstition is superstition, so if people are, superstitious, you'll do a lot of things so that you won't be weird.
All right.
I think one of the other things is there's a story about her is that I don't know if I don't think Fate would incorporate this, but one of the stories about her brutality relates to her own children. And it said that she had a daughter, and when her daughter was does Fate incorporate this?
It is mentioned in her materials. I think I know where you're going with this.
So it's said, and obviously there is no real evidence one way or the other for this story, but historically it's said that she had a daughter, and her daughter, when she was about a year old, died of strangulation. And Wu Zetian blamed it on one of the people in the harem who was trying to oppose her, and the people in the harem said that Wu Zetian did it to frame her herself. And so, a lot of people will say that she, murdered her own children, without... And there's no proof one way or the other here. Here's the thing, right? She could have, right? It's entirely possible that she could have strangled her own daughter and blamed it on the other consort. But at the same time, harem intrigue was literally the way of life for these women in the harem. There were hundreds of them, and they were fighting to be, more powerful than any other in factions. And they would go as far as hiring people to kill off the heirs of other consorts. We know that happened historically. So it's entirely possible that this story could be taken either way. Either Wu did it, right, in an act of pure cold-heartedness to frame someone so she'd get the upper hand, or someone did actually strangle her 1-year-old daughter to gain power. It really could go either way. It's kind of, I keep relating this back to Egypt, right, because there's a similar story in ancient Egyptian history where this pharaoh had 2 great wives, and the 2 great wives conspired against one another, and one of them orchestrated the murder of the pharaoh, and the papyri we have of the trial is the oldest legal document in the world that's a record of a trial, where the woman who orchestrated the death, the other one got a hold of her and basically sentenced her and her son, the contender for throne, to death. And then improper mummification to be punished for all eternity in the afterlife.
Oh, Fate does mention that somewhere. I don't know specifically where, but in this article here, it does bring that rumor, and it was probably in some of her materials in one of the books.
Honestly,
it's in her, Bond lines.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably part of the reason why they have her as an assassin class, because of palatial drama.
It is entirely for the executions, and the having people
that
executed.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as for the abilities she possesses, Wu has a skill called Imperial Privilege. Mm-hmm. This skill combines a bunch of skills she obtained or a bunch of skills she had in life, as well as others. Particularly, it notes that she was skilled in hand-to-hand combat, and she practiced fencing but wasn't taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Charisma of an Empress. I liked something like Charisma of an Empress for her because, I mean, once again, a woman, here's the thing. If she was not as strong and powerful as she was during history, it would have been very easy for counselors to say that, Gao Zhang is unable to rule, let's select one of his sons, we'll just move the succession ahead. But no, I mean, she called herself, right, Empress Regnant, right, reigning in place of her husband and then later in place of one of her sons. But, I mean, she successfully kind of held on to this power that was not hers by any right for so very long. And did so many things. So many times in history, we see Empress Regnants, right, or Queen Regents, who they can't really do much. They just exist, they sit beside their baby child, right, until their child is old enough, and they just are a placeholder on a throne. As opposed to, we have examples like Wu Zetian and Hatshepsut, who took control, took the power, right? And then said, well, you've named me Empress Regnant, which means I am ruling in the name of my son or my husband, meaning I have all of the power afforded to them. watch me use it.
For Wu, that ends up in Fate. It's born out of her. It describes it as the rule of fear, and it's particular. Like her particular skill at it is with delegating people to do things.
Yeah. So she also during her lifetime completely revamped the imperial examination system, to remove the court of a lot of corruption, but also in the process of expanding the empire she had to. And here's the thing, obviously I'm talking about it because, like, the way I sound, I'm probably saying Wu did nothing wrong, Wu was a saint. Like, I don't believe that, right? Like, all of these stories every story about a person has a grounding in truth, right? So while I don't think that Wu was some sort of horrible, terrible woman who did nothing but, like, enact a rule of tyranny and oppress people, I also don't think that she was innocent of any of these sort of things, right? Because I think that, in fact, she probably did, have to be quite brutal in the way that she enacted control to keep her power, right? Because it's much easier for a man to keep power than a woman, especially in these times and places. So she probably was very brutal as a ruler, and as a result of her being female and brutal, she has gone down in history as this kind of, like, evil woman in a lot of ways. But when you look economically, I mean, she really did benefit the country and the dynasty as a whole. And you have to think, this is very early in the Tang dynasty. She is the, I think, 3rd or 4th ruler in the Tang dynasty. Like, it is early. And to create the circumstances for a golden age in the ruler following her is impressive. And so sure, maybe she had to knock a few skulls to get there, and that's not great, but a lot of men have done the same thing. We don't call them quite so terrible. With the exception of Ivan the Terrible. And
we have a few men who were like,
certain other...
Did you forget about Vlad the Impaler?
Yeah, Vlad the Impaler, Ivan the Terrible. Like, there are Vladimir Putin.
And there are women that weren't called monsters. It's just, sometimes the rumors run wild.
Not very many if they maintain this sort of power. Like, a lot of women in history, right? They're not called monsters, but they also don't have this kind of power. But you have examples like Bathory and Hatshepsut and Wu Zetian who were vilified after their deaths. Like Hatshepsut, her son tried to strike her name from all dynastic and hieratic records in Egypt because he didn't want it known what she had done, although she led a period of economic prosperity in Egypt and imperial expansion, much like Wu Zetian did.
Wu Zetian's last skill here definitely plays into that Empress of Fear thing more. Torture technique. The same skill as Elizabeth Bathory has, actually.
Oh!
Except Bathory's is more, I'm going to torture you because I want to see you suffer. This is more, I'm going to torture you till you tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah.
So, a different take on torture.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
Alright, so her noble phantasm is called Manual of Accusation. I'm gonna move down here a little bit. Move the little animation there. We'll pull it up here in a minute.
Yeah.
So this one, it appears to allow Wu to force a target of hers into one of her torture methods. Mm-hmm. Her chosen method in FGO's animations is by stuffing them into broken wine jars that are filled with poison. Fate says, and I don't know if this lines up with the history or with the rumors, the urban legends, that this was how she executed the previous empress and the consort that was that she accused of strangling her child.
Yeah, I don't think that's what happened. I think that's a little bit of a fate-ism. As far as I'm aware, because of the lack of evidence, the consort that she accused of was of a higher rank than her, and her husband wanted that other consort gone as well after it was revealed, but they had to make sure that they had enough political ability to, and so they ended up demoting the uncle and then demoting the consort and her mother. And it was like a whole process over the course of like several years. As far as I'm aware, especially in imperial politics in China, things moved a little more ceremonially and slowly if there wasn't like 100% evident proof or an absolute tyrant of a ruler. I will say, however, I have heard And my professor was talking about this, so I like this manual of acquisition because one of the things that she did was she implemented an anonymous tip system.
Yes.
For reporting corruption and treason.
Yes.
And a lot of her kind of brutality comes from this implementation and system where people could anonymously report others for being corrupt or treasonous, and then she could have them, therefore there's a basis for an investigation or an accusation.
So I want you to hold that thought for later. For now, let's go ahead and take a look at her NP animation.
Okay.
What? Oh, these are skill animations. Let me...
Oh, fam, that sucks. What a flashy way to execute. I'm a fan.
Gonna go ahead and... Blah. Oh, look at that.
Cute. Adorbs. She's significantly more naked in her April Fool's art, but that's true of
everyone
almost all
is
of
significantly
them.
more naked in their April Fool's art.
I was gonna say, like, it's true of most, so...
Okay, so the reason why I asked you to hold that thought is because in story, and if you're at all confused as to why they chose lolly evolvings,
yeah,
that might be explained in story a little bit here.
Okay.
So the reason Wu goes by Assassin of the Nightless City is because in a story chapter where an underground society is being created to be aggressively matriarchal,
Okay.
It was split into 3 territories. One where men were brutalized and killed, the Amazon territory.
Yeah.
One where men were used for sexual slavery, the pirate territory. And one where men lived mostly normal lives, but were given much harsher social and legal standards they had to follow lest they be executed.
Okay.
This one was called the Nightless City. I wonder if they were trying to do some social commentary here on something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very much so, because you have to think the societal standards for... I mean, here's the thing. So that's another interesting thing. Societal standards for women in China historically have only become more and more strict as history approaches the modern day, right? Like, during Wu Zetian's time, women actually had, you know, a certain amount of freedom and things they were allowed to do, and there was a lot less eyes upon them if they weren't in positions like empress or empress consort or that sort of thing. And in modern day, China has become increasingly controlling and what's a good word? Conservative? Yeah, and authoritarian.
Yeah, you could say conservative too in some aspects.
It also reflects in the way that modern China tells their history. Like, for example, if you look at the Disney Mulan movie, right? You look at that telling of the story, and it is basically, for all intents and purposes, Chinese propaganda.
Nationalistic.
Yeah, nationalistic propaganda. I mean, the Disney's Mulan, right, is quite literally the message of that movie is that you need to obey your government to bring honor to your house and family, to the exclusion of all, right? Like it's like they portray it, right, as a woman kind of empowerment thing, but in reality, I mean, it's have loyalty to your government to literally the exclusion of anything else, to a point where you are risking your actual life and limb for the perpetuation of the government and its control. And it is... I mean, like, you see it at the end when he's like, give this woman a seat in my cabinet, and the dude's like, oh, there might not be any positions open, right? And he's just the scribe, and he's like, well, you can have his job. Okay, so the woman could be the secretary, right? You not an actual governmental position, just writing shit down, even though you fought and risked your life and saved, like, the life of, like, you saved the entire country. You could be a scribe because you're a woman, you know? Like... It's just interesting. Like, in some areas in the world, women have become more and more free, but there's this weird turn in a lot of places between, like, the 1500s and 1800s, where women become much, much more oppressed, and we vilify women in history during these periods. Like, if you look back at historical writings, right, about Wu Zetian that were published in, like, the 18 and 1900s, like, she is a villainous tyrant, right? She has no redeeming qualities. They don't talk about, like, how she benefited the empire. Nothing. It's just, like, she murdered her child. She murdered thousands of people, you know?
So, I'll say this about Wu's portrayal in that chapter. Wu is portrayed as being genuinely, and I mean this wholeheartedly, genuinely, idealistically authoritarian. She believes what she's doing is actually right.
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, she's not portrayed as being like, oh, I'm going to sit here and... No, she's probably, of the three, like, main villains of that chapter, the most genuinely trying to help people, and she thinks this is the best way things can move forward.
She thinks that what she's doing is right.
Yeah.
Regardless, you know? Which I can understand. I mean, you have to think that any ruler has to think that if they're trying to be, like, a good ruler, right? Like, they have to believe that what they're doing is for the betterment of the empire, you know, or whatever place they're ruling.
And I find that to just be a very important aspect of her character, just in general. I had an entire section here discussing the lolly, but that wasn't necessarily a hang up on you, so I'm not going to worry too much about that.
Yeah, I don't... Here's the thing, right? I guess I don't mind lollies in general. It's just the tastefulness of all the arts, right? I think the problem with Penthesilea is it's kind of tasteless in all versions of the art, right? Like, in no version is Penthesilea covered very much.
You would rather they have a covered version, and if they're going to be tasteless or going to go raunchy, have, like, that be one of the artworks or an alt.
Have an alternate version for me to enjoy where I'm not staring at a prepubescent body being shown off way too much. Like, I understand waifu culture, but, like... Throw me a bone here. You have 4 card arts in total. One of them can be covered up a little bit.
What I will say, though, is in the chapter where Wu was introduced, Wu, along with everyone else in that chapter, was purposely summoned to play into that creation of the society. So Wu being summoned younger was likely, and just from my own analysis, likely to have been so she would be a little bit more idealistic, give a lot less critical thought to, her own policies here.
Yeah, I mean, if she's summoned younger, then you can basically take that, right, and think about it as she's summoned when she's the lower ranking wife of Emperor Taizong, right, as she's taking over with Gaozhong, right? Like that transition of power when she's still trying to establish herself as Empress Regnant, and the wife of the emperor holding all the power in the imperial harem, and then as he falls ill, her desire to keep his reign strong or to just keep her own position strong because she would lose her position, right? Like, it's not unheard of for, like, people in the harem to transcend 2 kings, but 3 is a bit much. You become dowager at that point.
So this was originally supposed to be like the final pick-me-up if you hated this design. So maybe this will just be the icing on the cake here. There is another design.
Okay.
This one only appears in a brief flashback in the manga based off the chapter.
Okay. I love it! I love it so much! You don't understand. I love this so much. I would have art of this on my wall.
I want to see them do more with this design.
I would commission, like, a beautifully done piece of art with this design on it for my wall. I would love that. I would actually love some piece of art that incorporates, like, this image of Wu Zetian to, like, put up with my, like, females in history shelf, or something like that. 10 out of 10. Also, you have a more mature character here, right?
Yeah.
Like, Fate often portrays a lot of its characters as either very, very young or very old, but you have to think, like, she reigned as empress from, like, her 30s to, like, her 70s, so she was, like, a mature woman as she was reigning. Like, this woman, in the year 690, was not winning a beauty contest. She was 60-something years old. Like, she was reigning from her own power, wisdom, like built up support base. That's like a more adult artwork fits that a lot better. Is this like a flashback to?
It's like I actually have never read this manga. I only found this while doing research, but I'm pretty sure this is probably a flashback to her life or looking at her rule.
Yeah.
But that there is a canonical older Wu design in this now.
Okay. Yeah. I'm a fan of that. I am.
I always like when there's these little extra designs.
Yeah. It gives a little more context.
Okay.
I was gonna say, is that a summer variant of her, in the little dress, or a Valentine's Day variant?
There's no Valentine's.
Left from there. No, left. That one.
So this is a CE artwork.
Oh, okay.
Like this is one of the
so
anniversary
we'll get
ones.
to those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go ahead.
I was just wondering because we haven't had a good summer design in a while.
Yeah.
It's been like a solid chunk of episodes where you have not. What's the last one? Blavatsky? That you had a summer art to show me
so,
of?
yeah.
Yeah, that's a little weird. That feels wrong.
That's why I'm scared that a bunch of them are going to be rendered dead or dated.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are some of the CEs she's appeared in. If you can't tell, she is not amongst the most popular, because the chapter she's appeared in is generally regarded as one of the worst chapters in FGO. And her design, even if you're fine with it, you can see why this might be a little bit much for some people. Along with, this is the same chapter that someone like Penthesilea came in. There's a design I actively think is one of the worst designs in Fate that debuted in that chapter.
Yeah, you want to open some of these in new tabs so I can like see.
Yeah, and then you particularly want to see.
I'd like to see Palace of Loyang, Seaside Luxury, and maybe Imperial Chocolate and World Excursion. The Snow Pirates doesn't really interest me. Also, it's got other servants in it, and I don't recognize them. Right?
Yeah, you might know one of them, but not
Is
the
that
other.
Paul Bunyan?
I think that might be Paul Bunyan. You don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the other guy.
All right, so let's look at this. Is the Bond CE.
Okay, so let me take a look. Scroll down for me so I can. Oh wow, that's a long one. Okay, hold on. She accomplished something great, a righteous nation, a righteous government. Those who achieved greatness should be rewarded. Under the guise of an accolade, she spent her later days in a splendid palace. Decadence and love filled the palace walls. The country had set itself on the correct path. Feeling safe, she indulged herself in her desires. It was probably the first reward that was given to her, as she had endlessly and tirelessly worked so very hard. Scroll. But the people who surrounded her, the people to whom she had offered so much love, were not all righteous. A coup d'etat occurred. Those she loved were killed, and she was expelled from the palace. She realized in astonishment there was a possibility that the righteousness that she had envisioned and the righteousness that the populace desired were different. When did that divide happen, or was it right from the beginning? I really like that. So that's a reference to what I talked about in her final years, where her advisors were accused of being corrupted and that sort of thing, and basically she was removed from power in her later years because of her sicknesses and her advisors being considered corrupt by the general public. Also, I did like the call to the fact that she set the empire on its correct path, because it's true. With the next emperor, Xuanzang, it did start the golden age of the Tang imperial dynasty.
Yeah, no, you could tell, especially in the CE, that Fate's not trying to portray her as cackling evil villain. She's at worst an authoritarian leader.
Yeah, very, very much that she believes what she's doing is right.
Yeah.
And when it's potentially revealed that it isn't, she's not sure where it went wrong. Mm-hmm. Which makes a lot of sense for most rulers who are actively trying. Like any ruler who actively tries in some way to reform a country or a government or an empire has to be doing it because they think they're doing what's right. It's just so very often they're not. Right? Or in history it doesn't go down that well. Like so many emperors try to like reform the government and then just fail utterly, and all their progress is kind of destroyed by the next person in line. And luckily for Zetian, she did set up kind of the start of a golden age that continued, right? Like that's a great accomplishment, regardless of her personal reception in history, in my opinion.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Seaside Luxury.
That's
a servant you don't know. So maybe we don't read the bottom part here.
Oh, is it? It's not Eresh Kigal or
no.
Whatever. What are her faces? The other one.
Actually,
okay.
Is that? Close your eyes for a minute. I believe.
Or Ishtar was my other question.
It might actually be someone you know. You see, I know it's labeled here somewhere. I think that Oh, I think I know exactly who that is. Sorry, sometimes it's a little weird with these.
Do I know them? From Babylonia? Or anything else we've done? I still have my eyes closed.
Oh, no, you don't really know that servant, so we should...
Do I know of them?
Of them, yes.
Is it Ereshkigal or...
No.
Okay, alright. Then skip that. Can I open my eyes now?
Imperial chocolate. Yes, this is her Valentine's CE.
I figured it was... It's fucking chocolate fondue. You go down a little so I can... wait, I like the... That's really funny. Yeah, this is truly an exquisite treat made from super high-grade pottery and super high-grade chocolate and super high-grade fruit only obtainable by someone like me. It's called super high-grade gorgeous royal chocolate fondue. Fondue. Hey, why are you smirking? I said it wrong? I didn't. It seems like you need me to punish you personally. Okay, that took a turn. In that, last three... I did not read ahead as I was reading that out loud, or I would not have read those last three lines. That took a turn. Because I only saw down to the fondue, which I actually thought was a pretty funny little fumble joke.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice... Oh, man, that fruit looks so fucking good.
Sekhie suddenly craving dessert.
You know what the worst part is? I don't like chocolate-covered fruit. I just want the fruit. Sea monster. Oh, okay. So this is a beach thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's a beach thing.
Yeah, nothing too
okay.
crazy.
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot of...
There's not a lot that they haven't done a lot with her character, just because
Yeah.
she's relatively less popular.
Yeah, I do like the Luoyang, mostly because the art itself is really detailed in that image.
A lot of the Bond CEs really go ham on the art, which is fair because these are some of the hardest CEs to get in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just pull up her expression sheets. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Anything fun here?
Wait, go back to the icons. Oh, okay. Sorry, I just thought I saw something I hadn't seen before, but no. No.
Oh, wow, they actually... So these are her Chinese designs.
Oh, wait, I want to see them then. How is that... Wait, is that the first one?
This is the second.
Oh, okay.
They added, the purple...
I actually do really like that, more than I like the Japanese version. I do like the added kind of thing coming down.
Okay.
Quite a bit.
Keep that there.
Do they have the first one?
No, the first one they didn't seem to feel
so
the need to...
They didn't feel the need to do it. Okay, that makes sense. But I do actually like the Chinese designs for Stage 2 and 3 better.
Okay.
I have to say. Just that little bit of extra coverage is very helpful. It's so weird because I'm not all that squicky about, nudity in general. But, if it's a lolly, man, cover it up. Just cover it up a little. If you're gonna draw a lolly, cover it up. If you don't want to cover it up, give it boobs and a butt.
By the way, we at the Anime Club do not condone China's post-mortem censoring.
No, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't condone China's censorship. I just like that design with the dress.
Just in general,
more.
You're talking about character design in general.
Yeah, in general, because I feel the same way about Penthesilea. If you just added a little bit more, because she looks so young and she's said to be summoned young. Okay, well cover her up like you would a child a little bit more, just a little, a tankini instead of a bikini, just that little bit. Shorts instead of a bikini bottom. It wouldn't kill it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of the art. I didn't get a really good look through the Type Moon wiki in terms of sometimes they have
some
shit.
extra art.
Not even art, but sometimes they have extra stuff written in the description of all the different chapters and stuff that I catch. But
these?
Yeah, sometimes that they get
these?
some extra stuff. Yeah, it's usually in the text, but I usually catch it when you're scrolling through it because we do the craft essences on the other website. I don't always catch it now.
Scroll through this a little bit. There's not a lot here.
Yeah, it didn't look like a whole ton. I saw names of some people I recognized, but so she's part of the same Christmas event as Ketz, right?
No.
Oh, I thought it said Samba Night. Wasn't that
so
Ketz's?
she is in the Samba Night event.
Oh,
but
okay.
She's not a huge role there.
Oh, okay.
I'll be explaining the Samba Night event to you very soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, so scroll down. Not up, sorry, but down. Just real quick.
Oh yeah, the Chinese server.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so she didn't have much written in her abilities at all. Normally there's a lot more written. Okay.
Yeah. She doesn't have a lot of alternate forms, and there's not a lot of extra lore because she's just FGO and she's not used a lot. Part of that is because of her popularity. Another part of that is because she was from the chapters that were hiding their names, so they don't want to use her too much, or else they have to reveal her name or give her a nickname.
Okay. That makes sense. I suppose since she's not that popular, she probably doesn't have an arcade animation.
Not yet, but that's just because Arcade hasn't really gotten around to that set yet. Like they're only just getting. You remember they only just got around to Moriarty.
Oh, that's
This is
true.
after Moriarty.
Oh, okay. So Wu Zetian's not in part 1?
Yeah, Wu Zetian's part 1.5 Epic of Remnants.
Oh, so we're not even gonna see her in the campaign anytime soon.
No.
Damn. I would have drawn for Wu. I would have drawn for Wu. See, I saw Bradamante and Ketz when I was reading, and I was like,
Yeah.
I know those names. And then I saw Carmilla, and I was like, hell yeah. Oh god, ideal event. Carmilla, Bathory, Wu. Like, Queen Mab. Right? Just pull all of,
All of the
the misunderstood famous females into one event.
knowing all of them, I feel like they would tear each other to pieces.
Oh, but it would be so amusing.
We'll see you back next time with our next servant. You guys getting more servants this month. Still.
Y'all getting so many fucking servants this month. You know, like that meme, you could fit so many blank in this thing, right? You could fit so many servants in this thing.
I think they're getting a total of, in July, 4.
4 or 5?
4. I think it's 4. I think the last one that we're doing, or we have planned, pushes just out of July.
Yeah, just into August. So you guys are getting... I mean, this is number 3 of the 4, though. So, like, you guys have already gotten 2 servants this month.
We're still getting one more. We didn't cut this out of next.
Yep. So, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if there's anyone else you want to see done anytime soon.
Goodbye.